All right, guys, the watch list video for Tuesday, May 14th. I'm going to show you some stocks that I want to watch tomorrow to trade. Remember, I'm a day trader, so I'm in cash every night, which was a pretty good feeling today when the market was tanking and I didn't have any overnight holds. But I think there's also going to be a little bit of a mini rant in here. I don't know why. Something got under my skin today, and I kind of want to share it. But real quick, let's talk about the SPY. So the SPY had, I guess it was a little over a week ago. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see it better. So a little over a week ago, it gapped down pretty darn big, and then buyers stepped in. And I went over this in the pre-market this morning, but for those of you that weren't in chat or aren't a member, I'll kind of go briefly over it again. So what happened after this day, the gap down was bought up. Bulls are pretty confident, right? Hey, we're right back near all-time highs. And then the next day we take out the lows of that day. So now all these bulls are in trouble that thought, okay, the market's still strong. Bears are getting cocky, right? Then you have a quiet inside day. Then it gaps down big. Bears probably jump in and it closes at the high. Bulls are a little bit cocky again. It held the 50-day. Actually, on this chart, it's 60, but that's because I use this for my 5-minute chart. And you guys know I like the 60 EMA on my 5-minute chart, but 60-day and 50-day aren't very far apart. Anyway, so then the bulls are thinking, okay, well, we held the 50-day and we had a strong close. Sorry. And then the very next day, it sells off, but then rips higher and closes completely above the previous day after looking like it was going to fall apart. Bulls are pretty much back in charge. And then in one fell swoop today, we gap down below all these recent lows. And now I'd have to say the bears are feeling pretty cocky. There's still headline risk for both sides, but overall, there's definitely some fear coming into the market. I would certainly point out the 200-day right here. And a couple highlights from the day for those of you that didn't make it to chat. This was a very late day call. I copied and pasted my post there. It was a 4:45, so 15 minutes left. I posted JMIA flagging at the 2-day high, and that obviously is before this late day move. This was the flag. I said it has a chance for a late day pop, in my very humble opinion, over 26. And then you can kind of see the 26 break, and I think it might have even gone. I'm not sure if it went all the way to 27, but Wayne said that was the only trade he took all afternoon, so I was happy to see he got it. I didn't take that trade. I'd already had a decent day, and JMIA is pretty whippy, and I just didn't want to give any money back. So it was, there wasn't much time for it to play out, but even in 10 minutes, I think it went up about $1. So there's one of the highlights from chat. Speaking of Wayne, he gave MAXR from the overnight list. I went back about 5 days here. These are 5-minute candles. And the high back here was 710. And so it popped early and hit 710 again and pulled back. And Wayne on the mic said, hey, I like this. It's a big seller at 710, plus it's kind of a breakout on the chart. So his call was through that seller at 710 and really never looked back and went to 760 something from a 710 entry with like a 699 stop. That's pretty impressive. Great call by Wayne. It's pretty impressive on a weak market, as weak as the market was today. MAXR, pretty nice move. And then I also wanted to share, for those of you that either you're in the chat room and you know what I'm talking about when I say I like my buy zone pullback bids, or maybe you're not a member and you watched one of our free webinars on buying pullbacks. So whether, if you haven't seen that and you're not a member, go check that out. Our free webinars, you can email me if you want the link to the page. It's usually somewhere on my Twitter feed too. But anyway, I took this basically straight out of that free webinar. I had a bid at 333. You can't see it here, but it went to 332. I was only underwater a penny, and then it went on and ripped. That was a beautiful grab. And again, that was straight from our buy zone pullbacks. And I called that in chat. For those of you that weren't there, before it got there, I said I like this down here in the buy zone. And it was a really, really clean play. You can see the relative volume today. You can see the relative strength. Bitcoin was super strong. I almost said stupid strong, which I use that terminology sometimes. But that was probably my best trade of the day. I was able to add on the high of day break. There was a big seller at 50. I was able to add at 50. It was like a worry-free add because my average was 333, right? So it was like free shares on the add, and that ended up being my biggest gainer of the day. And this is the thing I wanted to rant about or complain about. I saw a chart like this on StockTwits. I think the symbol was TBLT. But these guys that post 100 charts a week, 200 charts a week, and they literally say with authority This stock is going to do this. This stock is going to do this. And I will say, I'm sure they don't mean any harm. I think it's just a certain personality type that likes to look like an expert. I'll be the first to tell you, I'm not an expert on any chart, right? I know if a stock hits this certain price, I'm going to get involved looking for this, and this to happen. But to just post a chart and draw this cute little arrow to imply to newer traders, don't worry, this thing's going to go. And by the way, they did an offering in after hours, so it's trading lower. But I don't know. I don't like stuff like this because I know it gives the impression that if I'm a brand new trader and I see this, I would say, oh, well, you know what? I'm going to put my whole account into TBLT because this guy who posts 1,000 charts a week drew this arrow, right? My point is nobody knows where a stock is going next week based on the chart this week. I've seen the most beautiful chart setups that look like a massive breakout is coming fall completely apart, right? Without ever even manifesting a hint of what I was looking for. So I just want everyone to be careful. If you're somewhat of a newer trader, the best thing I can tell you is that nobody on StockTwits, and that includes me, knows where a stock is going. And that's why in chat, I will not allow somebody to say, look at this, it's going to 10, right? I'll correct them in a split second. I'll say, you can say it might go to 10, but don't say it's going to 10 because you don't know, right? But when people say something with certainty, and I know this because when I was a newer trader, I would see posts like that in different chat rooms or on Twitter or whatever. And I would assume, because they say this one's going to 10, I just put all my money in it. I'm not suggesting that that was smart, but I remember what it's like to be a new trader, right? So I just will not allow language like that. And when I see it, I can't stand it because I know it's sucking new traders in. If someone tells me, you know, this guy's got 20,000 followers on StockTwits, right? And I've just joined StockTwits and I've never placed a day trade. And he said, look at this chart. And he draws an arrow and he says, this one going to 10 and it's 5. What am I going to do? I'm going to, you know, I don't want to have to work for a living. I'm just going to put all my money into that and then I'll sell it at 10. And then when it falls apart, it's not that guy's fault, it's my fault. But I'll never forget what it's like to be a new trader. And so I can't stand that kind of language of certainty. As a matter of fact, I've seen on Twitter, I think the same guy that drew that chart, saying with certainty many, many times, RBZ will be double digits next week. By the way, I think he said it when it looked like this. It'll be 8 today, it'll be double digits next week, right? And so now it's 585. And by the way, this is a horrendous looking chart, but that language of certainty, I can't tell you how many traders are probably sitting in this, and you see it. You see them ask the guy, hey, what about RBZ? You said it's going to double digits next week, and then he'll reply with certainty, it's still intact, don't worry, it's fine. It's selling off with the overall market. Now, this could be double digits next week, I don't know. I'm not telling you it's going to roll over, I don't know. But I can't tell you how many people see somebody with 20,000 followers and statements of certainty and are just whittling their account away because they're not going to sell it because this guy is telling them it's going to go to double digits, right? So, I don't know. The lesson I'm trying to get across here is actually learn what a setup looks like. Learn risk management. Learn when to place your trade so you'll be green right away, and then learn when to get out if it ain't working, right? I'm sick of seeing all these people get taken out of the market just because of posts like that, right? Just if you are a seasoned trader and you are great at reading charts, remember, and you're watching this video now, remember that. Remember that your posts of certainty, that language of certainty, this one's going to be double digits next week, I promise you, is coercing newer traders, some newer traders, to put all of their money in that stock. I'm sure that you tell them don't do that, but that certainty type of language, they're still going to do it because they're alone. They don't understand. They don't know what they're doing yet. And they're just looking for someone to teach them. They're looking for someone to follow. So always remember that. Even if you tell people don't follow blindly, right? Even if you tell people, you know, anything can happen and there's risk out there. Well, don't in the next breath say, this stock, it will be double digits next week. Yes, you could blame that person for following you blindly when they lose their ass, right? That's fine. But I'm going to say you have some of the blame if you use that you know, language of certainty. All right, I guess I've driven that into the ground, but it makes me crazy. Makes me crazy because I know there's potential trading careers getting snuffed before they ever have a chance to manifest because of people like that and because of people that advertise like crazy. You know the drill. The ones that are just teaching terrible habits like buy at the open. I mean, there's a better way, people. You just got to learn proper setups, learn proper entries. Let me find my tweet from today. Okay, I dug it up, found it, blew it up a little bit. Once you learn proper setups, perfect timing on your entries, risk control and trade management, day trading is really quite simple. And that's being a little bit facetious. I'm not trying to make it sound simple. I was actually trying to be funny, because then I say all that's left is unrelenting discipline over your emotions. So when you learn these 4 things, which you must know if you ever want to be a professional trader and be consistently profitable, all this means nothing if you can't have unrelenting discipline over your emotions. And that last one is the reason why 90% of people fail. But that's 90% of people that learn 1 through 4. I would say 95% of people fail before they ever get to these steps, because they, they're just blindly following some of the stuff I talked about earlier. All right. Anyway, I'm done babbling about that. Usually my watch list is done after 7 minutes. I'm 11 minutes into this video, so I'll be swift. I want to watch a few stocks for potential bounces. AVID is one of them. It gapped up probably on earnings, but I'm not sure, and then down 4 or 5 days in a row back near this 750 support. Potential bounce there, only with a proper intraday setup. SUNW, S-U-N-W, another red day, pierced the 20-day today, but closed above it. This was on Bounce Watch coming into today, but no trades in it, no triggers, but it'll go back on Bounce Watch tomorrow. I don't love Tigger, but I think if it can trade in a narrow range and then break out of that range to the upside, perhaps in the afternoon, I think this could get a little mini squeeze, even though that daily chart's pretty ugly. As I said in yesterday's video, it has come a long way to get down to all-time lows after that IPO back in March. And so it's still, to me, set up for a snapback bounce. Believe it or not, I have lift on the bounce playlist. Now, there's no chart to go on. You look to the left and you say, well, where's the support, Mike? There isn't any, but lift IPO'd and actually was at 88.60, and now it's down about 40 bucks from there, and down pretty swiftly even over the last 4 days from over 60 down into the 40s. So I think Lyft is worth watching for a bounce, especially if, and I'm not going to watch Uber for a trade, but Uber has 2 days of trading under its belt, but it popped to 45, and today actually hit almost 36 before closing out at 37. So if Uber gets any kind of a bounce, Lyft is pretty oversold in the short term here. It's got that kind of downside shape we look for. So that's on Bounce Watch. I actually have Intel on Bounce Watch because you got 4 days in a row down and near an area where this thing has bounced pretty swiftly from the between 42.50 and 44. This area down here, it's had some really nice bounces. So, and it's ahead of itself to the downside. Okay, so that's a good candidate. There'll be plenty of liquidity in Intel too. Yelp, also very short-term oversold, down near where it bounced from last time. So I would love to see kind of a flush through 30 and then maybe look for an intraday reversal. TAIT, really strong stock, and now you've got a few days down pretty harshly, but into the 20-day. And the market's been pretty weak, so this could be an opportunity for a bounce. Mara traded this one today. Already talked about that buy zone pullback. It actually closed lower than I thought it would. If this would have closed strong, this would be my top pick for tomorrow. But last I looked, Bitcoin was still strong, so MARA is a pretty good candidate, especially if Bitcoin is still strong for maybe some kind of red to green tomorrow. MAXR, I showed you Wayne's call on that one today. It's kind of breaking out and held up fairly well in a weak tape, so we're still going to watch that one tomorrow. Workhorse, WKHS, pretty strong day today, although closing well off its highs. We're going to watch that one. A couple more. NOVN had this big pop back here, came down into consolidation and curling up in a very weak market, so let's keep our eyes on that one. And then SAEX is my last pick. Nothing pretty here, but in after hours, it's kind of flagging. It had earnings, I believe, and popped to, I'm not sure, slightly over 4, and as I'm babbling here at 6:37 p.m. Eastern Time, it's flagging right about 4. Certainly a lot of trading has transpired around this $4 area though, but SAEX does get some squeezes at times. I'm sorry to babble on so long. I'm done babbling. We'll see everybody in chat tomorrow.